and welcome to another edition of the Book Review Blog. I am your book reviewer, and today we're going to review the Dark Tower book, the fourth book in the series, called Wizard and Glass, and it's by Stephen King. There you go. As I said before, this is the fourth book in the Dark Tower series, and if you remember my review of the third book in the series called Wastelands, this book starts where Wastelands left off, where Roland, Eddie, Susanna, Jake, and Oi were on Blaine, the mono train, and Blaine had given them kind of not an ultimatum exactly, but he was like, I can take you as far as Topeka, and if you, we're going to play a game that's where you give me riddles, and if you can stump me, then I'll let you off, but if you don't stump me and I answer all your riddles, then I'm going to crash this train and basically kill myself, and you're going to go with me. So, again, that's where Wastelands ended, and Wizard and Glass starts where they're on the train, and they're thinking of riddles, and through... Roland asks a lot of riddles from his childhood, and Blaine answers them. Jake has got a riddle book that he asks Blaine riddles, and Blaine answers that. And Eddie is kind of silent, and Susanna is kind of silent. But then Eddie starts to think, and he starts to answer just real simple riddles, like, why did the chicken cross the road? But he starts to do it over and over, and he starts to do more things, like and he does a lot of dead baby jokes, which I don't like and I don't get, but it must be a generational thing. But he's like, why did the dead baby cross the road? And, Blaine is confused on that because he's like, there really is no answer. And eventually they realize that is what's going to get them safe, is because he can't answer the riddles, but he's very confused and he tries. And so they just fire rapid fire questions like that. Like, why did they cross the road? Why did this thing cross the road? Why did this thing cross the road? Just very illogical jokes with illogical answers. And so Blaine just kind of shuts down and in Topeka. And so they hop out, and they're walking, and they come... When I had read the book, I was thinking, okay, is this like the Topeka, Kansas of, that we know, or the Topeka in Kansas that we know, or is this like a Topeka somewhere else? And it turns out to be actually the Topeka, Kansas that we know, because I think they have like the Topeka Atkinson Railway, which is famous. And they have different fast food chains, some we know and some we don't know. And then as they're walking, they're finding cars and people just kind of laying all around. And they're walking, and they come across a spray-painted sign that says something about Captain Trips. And those of you who are familiar with Stephen King know that Captain Trips is what the virus is known as in The Stand. So what Stephen King has done is he has molded two of his stories into kind of one, where the Dark Tower now talks about things that The Stand talks about. And there is, and they also, along with fast food stands, they also come across gas stations, and some, like Citgo and Sunoco and other things like that. And this starts getting Roland kind of thinking and remembering about times past. And there's another thing that's going on, is there's like this shimmery light off to the distance, and Roland calls it a thinny. And that to him is also makes him remember things past. And they stop kind of on a turnpike, which I thought was cute, on the expressway for a night. And Roland talks and tells them a story. And that's what the majority of this book is the story that he's telling of a lost love. He's remembering back to when he was originally made a gunslinger, when he was very young. I think 14 is the age he was when he originally became a gunslinger. And when he was 14, he realized that his mother, whose name was Gabrielle Deshane, was having an affair with, like, his father's wizard, whose name is Martin. And his father knew about it, so his father sent Roland and his two friends along on a quest. His two friends are named Elaine and Cuthbert, and so they go from Roland's hometown of Gilead to another town a little further off called Magus, and they're there to count. They say that they're there to count horses and other things like that, just kind of like their tally men. And they have different. They don't go as themselves. They go as different people with different names. And on one of their early times there, one of their first nights there, Roland comes across a woman named Susan Delgado, who herself has just come from and visiting a witch who has told her that she is going to be the prostitute, or the Jilly, is what they're called, to the mayor of the town of Magus. His name is Mayor Thorin. And Susan, to help her family, her and her Aunt Cordelia, she has agreed to become the mayor's Jilly and to bear his child, which is something that the mayor's wife, whose name is Olive, can't do. She can't bear children, so Susan has agreed to bear his child, and by doing this, is going to amount to Susan and her Aunt Cordelia this amount of wealth, and all of the mayor's wealth when he dies. And he's very old, so he's going to die anyway. But as it turns out, Susan runs into Roland on her way back from visiting this witch, who's going to tell her that about this thing that she has to do with the mayor, and that Susan has to wait 3 months in order to fulfill this prophecy, or in order to because she's a virgin, so she's going to lose her virginity in 3 months, and that way, that's how she can have a child in that sort of way. So, but again, it happens where she runs into Roland, and they quickly fall in love, and Susan doesn't like this outcome that she has, that she doesn't want to be with the mayor. She really didn't want to be in the first place, but she knew that she had to be to make her aunt happy, and to make their existence kind of there, where they can have money and have a good place in life, because she's very young. And but her love for Roland starts to grow and grow, and they end up making love, and she loses her virginity to Roland, and instead, and they do this a lot of times, where she ends up being pregnant by Roland, and what happened is, along this way, there's a bunch of kind of bigwigs in the town who are known as the Coffin Hunters, because they have a coffin tattoo just about right here on their hand, and they want to take over the town, and they want to get rid of the mayor, and they want to do things like that. And along with counting horses, Roland notices that there's a lot of oil in this Magus town, and he asks Susan, who's lived in Magus all her life, about this, and she's very perplexed on this. Why would they have oil? And they found a plot by this coffin hunter group and I won't go into details. It's a little confusing, but I do want you to read this book. So, and that's kind of that's not where the book ends exactly, but that takes up a big chunk of this book, as I said before. And when they're done, when Roland is done telling the story, they go to along the way in back into Pika, and they come across this castle, and Eddie, Susanna, and Jake keep thinking that it's very much like the castle in Oz, in The Wizard of Oz, and I don't know if it's because they're thinking that they're in Kansas or what, but then things kind of go on that's kind of very similar to The Wizard of Oz, where they come across when they enter Oz, and they go through the castle, and they talk to a man who's like, oh, I am the Great Oz, and things like that, and it's very similar to The Wizard of Oz in that way, but I won't go into details. To me, that was very weird why Stephen King put that in, but I thought it was kind of cute just because to tie in another story. One of the things that is interesting in these books is that Stephen King does a foreword in these books where he talks about that when he was 19, that was 1966 or 67. The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit books were really popular. So, and this book has to me, it sounded like it was very similar to kind of the Lord of the Rings ideas, or other things from mythology. Like there's this witch that Susan goes to see has a crystal ball that's very similar to the ball in this book right here, and she's able to see into it, and the more she sees into it, it's the more that she is obsessed with it. And so to me, that was kind of along the lines of the ball in the Fellowship of the Ring and in the along the trilogy, that you can see where Saruman and Sauron are able to look in, and Sauron can see outside and everybody can see there. But and then also the ring itself, for Gollum, I was thinking that, you know, when he got the ring, he became so obsessed with it that it overtook his life. And it kind of did that with the witch, whose name is Rhea. So that's it for this book. Again, there are 3 more that I will read eventually and do reviews on. So the next book that I'm going to read, that I'm reading currently, is a book that's very similar to Snow White. It's called Fairest of All. A couple years, I'm a good Snow White fan, and a couple years ago, my friend went to Disney World and gave me this book, and I hadn't been able to read it yet, so I thought I would read that. So that's it, and I bid you all a farewell and happy reading.